Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to a video, and today I'm going to be doing sort of an introduction and parts overview to a new wing build that I'm going to be doing. And obviously I still am inside here, so the wing is not going to fit on this little build mat. So first off, just let me show you all the parts that I have chosen for it. So to start off with the powertrain for the motors, this guy actually is a dual motor plane. So you're going to need at least 2 motors for it. I got a couple spares here. So the motors that I chose for this, these are the DYS Samguk Woo, and these are the 2206-2400 kV motors here. Now this is sort of a mini quad motor, but I thought it would work just fine for the wing, and we do have 2 of them. I'm going to be powering it, so it's a pretty simple motor. It's their sort of budget motors. We do have a naked bottom design, which is nice, with a 16x16 mounting. The air gap is pretty decently large, however on a plane it's not going to matter, especially since it's going to be running 6-inch props. That'll probably help us out a little bit, as well as the relatively low 2400 kV. The shaft, I believe it is hardened steel. I don't think it's titanium because it's too cheap a motor, but it is nice to see that they don't have an aluminum shaft. And then we do have multi-stranded windings, as well as pretty decent amount of length of wire here, which would be nice to get to our ESC. Probably not ideal motor for a wing, however, they do have a pre-built kit of this that comes with Racer Star 2205, 2300 kV motors, so these will at least be a decent bit better than those, so I just got a couple of them. The servos that I got are the PDI 1109 MG for Metal Gear, just some pretty generic servos that I got off Banggood. You can see just a standard, pretty much 9-gram Metal Gear servo, digital. It just comes with, of course, the different attachments for the drive gear here. You just have your little servo extension out, so nothing special on servos. For the ESC, these are just the FMS Predator 30 amp ESCs, and these do have a 5 volt back in them. However, you don't need that. These do have bullets. These were pretty much just the first decent looking quality ESC that I saw. They do have an XT60 on, however, we're going to cut that off. But these should work just fine running on 4S with powering 2 motors. I just got 2 of them right here. Pretty decently cheap ESCs. The props I got are just some super generic 60-40 6-inch props. However, these are really bad quality. You can just tell looking at them. Hopefully you can see they're like molded really bad, and they're super flexible, and then they don't bend back. So definitely would not recommend getting these. Maybe just some dull 6-inch dual blades, or pretty much any electric propeller, maybe from a gem fan, but a 6-inch prop is pretty much what you're gonna want. However, I have seen people run up to 8-inch on this plane. For the VTX here, I just got the Furious FPV Stealth. I believe this is the Stealth Race. This does have the tiny little Bluetooth module in it. So we take a look at the VTX here. I actually never knew how small this was. This is a lot smaller than I thought. Let me get a Unify real quick. So here is a TBS Unify, and if we stack them up right next to each other, you can see this guy is really small. I had no idea it was this small, and it's not as nice in terms of having a flat back, so it is thicker, but in terms of a plane mounting, it's going to be just fine. On the back, we do have our little push button there underneath the heat shrink, and here we have our breakout cable, and it's nice to see that the UFL is very nicely secured underneath the heat shrink. You can see it's shrunk all the way down, so this is not going to be moving anywhere. And of course, I got the version with the little Bluetooth module here, so that just plugs in on this side right there, and then you can have your NFC control for the Bluetooth app, so you can change settings with your phone, which is pretty cool. And then for the antenna, I'm just going to use pretty much standard for me now. It's just a Foxy Air Lollipop. These work great for me, $10 antennas. In the bag, we just have some heat shrink there, as well as some extra breakout cables and a little wiring diagram for how to connect it up. So that was a quick intro on the parts that we'll be using. Now we need to take a look at the wing itself. So here is the wing. At least the center portion of it. And you can see I can't even get this thing all the way in shot. You can hopefully see our dual motor mounts there. So this is, no, it's not showing a great picture here, but this is the Reptile Harrier S1100. So it's an 1100 millimeter wingspan. This is basically just a pretty large wing here that'll be powered by our dual motor setup. And it does come with a pretty large sheet of instructions on how to build it. You can see here's just a better look at it. We do have some side force generators. And now this version I did get is the kit. So it came with a lot of pieces. And now ideally I was planning on doing a actual sort of in-depth build video showing how to glue everything together, because this does require glue. And by the way, the glue I just picked this up at Walmart, is some E6000, 2 fluid ounces here. It should be just fine. But in terms of actually filming the build, I won't be able to, because I'm wanting to fly this in a time frame that a build video wouldn't allow for, so I sort of need to build it as quick as I can off camera. But the instructions do cover pretty much everything. I think they did leave a few steps out looking at it, but it's pretty self-explanatory with the pictures. And then on the back, it does show you how to hook up the receiver, your ESCs, and the flight board that they give you. I'm going to be running a 4S Tattoo 4000 milliamp hour battery. Hopefully that will fit up front in the nose cone area here. It's quite a big area, and then back here is where all your electronics and stuff go. Of course, like I mentioned, just to repeat it, this kit does need a lot of glue to put everything together. There's a lot of little parts. This is probably going to take at least 3 hours plus, maybe 5 hours, depending on how your gluing skills are. But it is nice to see, just real quick, that they do have 2 spars. There's one through the back and there's one through the front here, as well as on the wings. They do have another tiny little spar to reinforce the aileron there. And then here's just where the one spar goes under and seats in there. And they also do give you a sheet with some stickers and logos on it, if you want to put that on. But I do really like how this foam is a gray and not a white. It just makes it a lot nicer to look at, and it doesn't blow out the camera. It is a nice, thick, pretty durable feeling molded EPP foam. Pretty standard for wings like this, but I'm really excited to get this together. So let me go ahead and start building it off camera, and if I do notice anything along the way, or maybe I'll give an update to my build progress, I'll take another video. But real quick, I forgot the camera, the FPV camera that we're using. I just saw this and forgot. I'm just going to be using a Foxeer Predator Mini up front, so a 1000 TVL 4.3 CMOS camera, which is pretty much what I like. So let me get this build started. Alright, so here we are outside with everything fully built and put together, and yes, I know this motor's hanging off there. I'll get to that in a minute, but pretty much, hopefully, you can see the plane in view. I got everything put together with all the glue and everything. Everything's holding really nicely with the E6000 glue, and it took me, with all the time combined, probably about 5 or 6 hours. It did take quite a bit longer than I expected, but that's probably just because I'm new to building planes and I wasn't really familiar with some of the ways to go, so I had to look stuff up on what to do. But let's just take a look up front in this compartment here so I can show you what I did. So basically, I put the Foxeer Mini Predator up front. I just kind of shoved it into that mount there, and I think that'll work just fine. Then I wired that back to the Furious FPV Stealth Race. I wired it to the 5-volt out from the VTX, and then here's the little Bluetooth module. It actually works really nicely to change your channels. And then for the powering of the VTX, I just wired it back and just sort of hooked it in to the camera sensing wire, the voltage, so I have OSD from the camera. So I just hooked these together and then ran those back to VBAT, and then the battery will just sit up here. And then in the back, I get this off this receiver. I'm just using a D4R2, but I unhooked it just for right now, but I can clip that back in. In the back, I tried to use the stock PDB that it came with, however, it didn't quite work out. I never got it working right. I'm not sure why. But I realized I didn't need any of the BECs or voltage step downs or anything, so I just went with a simple Maytech PDB. So here's our input leads that go up underneath through there. And then I just soldered on the VTX power to VBAT right here, so that just goes up through as well for the VTX. And then here are our 2 ESCs. And then let me get the receiver out of here. For the ESCs coming out of the back here, the leads come out. And basically here are just our 2. And then for the 2 motor ones, I just combine the 2 signals together. So this is our throttle channel. And then the hatches pretty much all just slot in and then have some magnets to help hold things. However, this back latch, this piece just kind of shoves in there. I'm not really a big fan of that. There's not really much to hold it in, but I think it should be alright. So for the servos, I just put those in with some glue, and then we have our control rods and horns here. And however, if I can get it to show without the wingtip coming in play. The piece that goes down through the wing, there's a piece that comes out right here. Actually, they give you a little clip. It's supposed to slot through and pinch that together. However, the plastic piece that goes down in is not long enough. So I wasn't able to use that. So basically what I did is I just filled it up with a bunch of E6000 glue, and that set in there just fine. So I think that'll be all right. And they give you a nice carbon plate to help attach it to, so that's really nice. The winglets just go on just straight with glue. And you want to make sure that you sand all the foam to foam surfaces before you put some glue on them to help them adhere better. And you have this big throwing piece up front. I put a lot of glue on that. So underneath we have our motors here mounted to the back, and now I'll explain why the other motor's hanging off. So basically you just have this wooden piece here, and then you have a little carbon piece, and they screw together. The motor screws from underneath, and that's actually a really bad system because I can't get this motor off. The only way I could get it off would be to rip this off somehow, because the screws all go in from the other side. So a lot of people have pointed that out also and changed it, but I decided to go with it as is because I thought it would be fine. And it was fine until this happened. This was the Maiden Flight. I was flying for about, I don't know, maybe 30 seconds to a minute max. And then one of the motors, I just hear poof, and one of the motors fell off. And if you look at this, you can see it actually burned off. It got so hot that it burned off and melted all the glue probably that was holding it on, because that's what's holding the plates together is glue. And then it chopped itself up, and you can see it spun around and it broke the carbon plate. So I'm not actually sure why they got so hot, and the other motor was really hot as well. I am using 6x4 propellers. These are the DYS 2206 2400 kV motors. So perhaps the kV is a little high, the motor's a little bit too small, or the prop's too aggressive. It's only 6x4, but if you look, it actually hugs the motor really closely, so maybe that's impairing some of the airflow. So I'm not sure with that. It was flying just fine. It was cruising at about half throttle, but I'm going to actually try putting on a bigger motor. I have this. This is just an old fuselage from an Ishin wing. I actually have two of these, so it'll work out great. I have these motors. These are Racer Star BR 2216 2000 kV motors. So it's quite a bit bigger motor as well as a lower kV, so that should be a lot easier to spin 6-inch props and should give us a lot extra speed and power in it. And also I did, on the flight, I was having some problems with it being pretty nose heavy, and I did have a Tattoo 4S 4000 up front here, and it fits, like, it completely squishes in here. There's no way that I can move it forward or backwards. It fits exactly in here. So actually having extra motor weight in the back will probably be a good thing, but I need to figure out how to get this off. I might just heat this up, sort of like this one, to get that to come undone, and then I'll have to basically just cut some new mounts out of wood or something to mount the 2216 motors to. But other than that, the plane together, it went together pretty well. Don't have many complaints. The wiring underneath was a bit finicky because of the way I had to do it. This piece just comes off. I didn't glue it. But the ESC wires just go through here because the ESCs obviously are housed in these little compartments. You can see I have the wire sticking up there. But other than that, it was pretty straightforward to put together on the manual, just to make sure you understand what you're doing before you glue things, because it's going to be kind of hard to go back. I do like how they have carbon spars in the ailerons here, and there's a big spar across the middle, and then there's another spar across the front, so it does feel very solid. It is a really nice big wing, and I'm really looking forward to, once I get the motor swapped, and hopefully it don't randomly get extremely hot again, to being a nice big cruising wing. Because on a Forest 4000 with bigger motors, hopefully I should be looking at something like a 10 to 20 minute flight time, so that'll be really nice for some longer range. And for the Vtx antenna, actually, as right now, it's definitely not an ideal setup. I was just sticking it like this and then putting the canopy on, so it just kind of stuck up. But I might burn a hole in the foam so I can permanently stick it up somewhere. But that just sits in there for right now. Alright, so there we go. It's going to bring us to the end of this sort of parts intro and then build overview after I was done. Again, sorry that I couldn't build it on camera, but there are a couple other videos out there and it would have taken me way too long. And again, it's pretty self-explanatory in the manual or looking at pictures. Hopefully I'll have a Maiden Flight out for you soon once I get these 2216 motors swapped on, and hopefully they don't burn up like the other ones do. I'm thinking they'll be a much better fit for this versus 2206 motors. I think those were just a little bit too small, which is kind of concerning because the kit version that they offer as Racer Star 2205 motors, so I don't really know about that. But all in all, I'm pretty happy with the wing so far, even though it only flew for 30 minutes. The kit feels pretty nice, everything goes together well. A couple little points that they can improve on, but no major complaints, and I think it's a really good deal overall for like $60 for just the plane. It's actually a really nice package for something so big. So that was the end of the video. There will be a link down in the description to all the parts used, as well as I will link these Racer Star motors. Since I'll probably be using those, I wouldn't recommend smaller 2206 motors like I used, but you can try it out. Not sure how it'll work, but I didn't have a good experience with it. It might have just been my prop choice that was the issue, I'm not sure. So yeah, that's the end of the video. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.